Today we are going to start painting in Photoshop. So to start, what we're going to do is create a new. Now you could just open your photo that you're using as your reference, but I'm going to go to create new because remember in Photoshop, this is really, really important. Because it's resolution based and it's made up of pixels, you really want to make sure you start out with the size of the final printed photograph or painting that you want in the end. So right now mine just has randomly here 10 by 10. You can go up here and go to print sizes and look. General like photo print sizes might be different from paper print sizes. So I'm just going to kind of keep this generic, and mine, the biggest I'll probably want to print this is a 12 by 18. So let's just have everyone start with 12 by 18. If yours is horizontal, you're going to put the 18 here, which mine is, and then 12. These are the same proportions as your photograph if you took them with a camera, depending on your camera, I guess. So if you might have to crop your photo or adjust this a little bit, but 12 by 18 is going to give me a fairly big print. You could go bigger. The only problem is like I've done 20 by 30, which is like a poster size. Sometimes the file's so big that it slows down the computer, but you want to start with the size of the painting that you want to print. So you don't ever want to start really small. You could work on a 4 by 6 inch painting for weeks and weeks and weeks. It'll look great on the screen. And then when you go to print it, you can only ever print it a 4 by 6, which is this size, and it's not very big. So in Photoshop, you can't resize after you're done. That is a huge downfall as opposed to Illustrator, where you can change the vector size at any time. Because it is vector, you can change the proportions and it won't lose any quality. Here, it will definitely lose quality if you try to make something bigger than when you started. So I'm going to do 18 by 12. You always want to make sure the resolution is 300. That is the standard for high quality printing across the industry. Color mode, it depends on what you're doing for printing. Generally, printers print in CMYK, but your photos are generally in RGB. For this, I am going to put CMYK. You just might notice a little bit of difference from your screen to the printer when you go and print if you leave it in RGB. So I'm just going to put it in CMYK. If you don't do this, it's not the end of the world. Then we're just going to create. So this should just open up a brand new document. Mine's just taking a second. A blank page, and then we're going to start building on that page by adding our original photograph that we're going to use as a reference, and then we'll go on from there. So when I'm painting, I always want to make sure that I have certain items available to me, and you can go up to Window and go to Workspace. And there is a painting workspace, there's a photography workspace. Depending on what you pick, it's going to choose different options. So I just changed mine to painting. That way it leaves my brush panel open, my swatches or my colors, my layer panel will be there and available. It just makes everything really readily accessible to me. So I'm going to close that history panel. And then from here, I'm going to find my photograph. So in Photoshop, it looks a little different than Illustrator, but I'm going to go to File, and I'm going to go down to Place Embedded instead of Place like we did in Illustrator. It's called Place Embedded. And then I am going to find my photograph, which I downloaded from my email. And I just clicked on it, and then you can click Place if you need to. It's just taking a second. So you can see my photograph is a little bit narrower than my page length. I can always change that later, but for now, you could, stretch this out. I want to kind of carefully compose this so it looks the way I want it to look. I wanted to choose a photo that had like a background, a midground, and a foreground. I like that the tree is kind of framing the house there. but maybe there's some details I can drag off the page that I don't need. So you can see here, the bounding box allows me to drag. You can twist and straighten if your picture, mine was a little bit crooked. And just hit enter when you're done, and that will place it on the page. Now, if you look in your layers panel, which you'll want to have open all the time, you can make this, drag this out. This is placed on top of the background. I'm going to start using this in building up my layers, putting many, many different layers for the different layers of the photo. So I might put my background on one layer, my midground on another. I might have shadows and highlights on another layer. It just depends on how I want to kind of organize this. But definitely we're going to use lots and lots of layers here, and we'll be turning our layers on and off to see through to the background. Now, I'm also going to file and open, just file and open now, my picture so I can use it as a reference and just kind of have it to look back and forth from. So I've opened it. It's on this tab opened, and it's on this tab kind of on my page. So the reason I like to do this is I'm going to just drag this. So I went to the top and I just dragged this off. I like to keep this kind of off to the side, so I can like look at it real closely. So if I go to Control minus or Control 0, it makes it full screen. Control minus, I'm just going to get it like that. And then sometimes I'll just like go back and forth and kind of have it open. Now you're kind of limited on screen space here, so I'm going to like, this is my painting and then this is my reference. Sometimes you have to kind of divvy up your space, which can be a little annoying because I don't want to have to go back and forth. So now I can like have them both open. When I click on this, I'll look in the layers and I'll know this is my painting. This is my reference picture, but I do like to have it kind of sitting there. So another difference of Illustrator is in Photoshop, you can't put things on your background, which would be really helpful here for the reference picture. Like I can't copy and paste something and put it off to the side of my picture. That's why I have it in two separate windows. Okay, so I've got my reference picture I can look at here and go back and forth from, and my painting picture. My painting picture's there. It's got the two layers. I'm going to start by just saving this file, save as, and I want to make sure I'm going to save this to my computer as a Photoshop file. So I'm going to say home painting. With a Photoshop file, it's going to look blue like this on your computer, but it's going to preserve all of your layers, and you want to make a Photoshop file to keep all those layers so you can reopen it day after day after day and make changes to it. Only when you're completely done with the painting will you then save it as another file for printing like a PNG or a JPEG. So I'm just going to keep it home painting Photoshop file, hit OK if this pops up. And now you're ready to get started. You've got your reference picture here. Remember, I went to Window and I went to Workspace and I went to Painting to get all these tools to look the same over here. And all your swatches are here. My layers are there. And I've got everything up that I need. Sometimes it gets a little crammed, so I kind of move things around. I've got brushes behind here that I'm going to choose from.